This is Franchise Today, brought to you by FRM Solutions, providers of the best-in-class software solutions for franchise relationship management. Franchise Today is your destination for weekly information, conversations, and interviews with accomplished industry leaders, all of whom share best practices for sustainable growth and sensible franchising. Here now, your host, Stan Friedman, to kick off this week's podcast.
Today is Wednesday, February 8th. I'm Stan Friedman, and this is Franchise Today. Well, the countdown's on as IFA 2023 in Las Vegas is just 2 weeks out. And just ahead of that comes our very first Zorforum Masterclass, featuring the brilliance of E-Myth author and legend Michael E. Gerber, who on the 16th of February, Thursday the 16th at 1 p.m. to be exact, hopes to cause a paradigm shift for more than just a few of you as he leads our very first ever Zorforum Masterclass. That program will go live and be available for anyone in franchise leadership, from emerging all the way to enterprise-level brands. Don't miss this run-up to convention, as Gerber does his best to redirect some from what they may think matters most to that which is existential in order to scale a franchise business for sustainable growth. So, when better than now to hear from the master of transformation, and for some, the master of agitation, as he either affirms that you are clearly already on the right track, or perhaps that you may need a course correction on your way to the promised land. Registration and attendance is absolutely free, courtesy of FRM Solutions and 919 Marketing. But get that done today if you've not already done so. Shifting gears, also today, we'll hear from Roger Martin, CEO of ThriveMore Brands, and co-founder and CEO of Beem Light Therapy and RockBox Fitness. A relative newcomer to franchising as compared to many of you, but no stranger to hanging with the right people and getting things done and getting them done right the first time. Before I bring Roger on, my thanks again to Scott Thompson, Chief Development Officer and Managing Director of all the brands operating under the Level 5 Capital Partners banner, most notably Big Blue Swim Schools. Thanks again, Scott, for taking the time and for delivering so much take-home value as you shared so much with this audience last week. A quick break here to pay some bills, and I'm joined by Roger Martin when I return in 2 minutes or less.
Franchise Today will be right back, but first, a word from our sponsors.
Franchisors of restaurants, bars, and grills, and multi-unit franchisees, listen up. This message is for you. If you're looking to engage guests, elevate profits, and enhance your customer experience, Atmosphere TV is the answer. What's Atmosphere, you ask? Atmosphere is the world's #1 streaming TV service for businesses, here to help you make more and save big on overpriced cable packages. Atmosphere provides you with a free programming option, bringing more than 60 ultra-engaging audio-optional channels designed to please customers and increase their average ticket. So, how does it work? Well, it's easy. Upon sign-on, Atmosphere sends you a free device, loaded with over 60 channels of eye-grabbing entertainment. From news and sports to viral videos and fuzzy animals, every channel is family-friendly and designed to keep your customers happy and engaged. Plus, thanks to Atmosphere's 100% audio-optional format, the programming is perfect for any setting, no matter how loud or busy. Atmosphere isn't limited to restaurants or bars either. Any business with a TV screen can benefit from better entertainment. So stop playing and paying overpriced cable. Go with free TV instead. Chiropractors, doctors, dentists, auto shops, anyone with TV in their waiting rooms can jump on this amazing offer. Just go to atmosphere.tv/sign-up and use the code FRANCHISE, and Atmosphere will waive the usual one-time $99 activation fee for your free-to-stream device. Visit Atmosphere online at atmosphere.tv, and remember, use the code FRANCHISE to waive your one-time activation fee. Visit atmosphere.tv to elevate your franchise's entertainment experience today. Roger Martin was once the chief operating officer of an industry-leading pharmaceutical development and manufacturing company, leading sales and marketing teams of over 500 representatives in the specialty and big pharma market. So, Roger brings a wealth of skills to his franchised brands. He's got extensive expertise in sales management, leadership, deployment, business development, strategic selling, contract negotiations, B2B service contracting, licensing, marketing, and contracted services. Roger currently serves as the CEO of RockBox Fitness and Beem Light Sauna, and in addition has owned and operated multiple RockBox studios and currently owns the flagship Beem Light Sauna studio in uptown Charlotte, North Carolina. Roger Martin, welcome to Franchise Today.
Thank you, Stan. I am very, very glad to be here.
And I'm happy to have you here. The more I learn about you as a person and as a business person, the more I'm intrigued to learn more. And I'm curious as can be how somebody from the world of big pharma found his way to franchising and when that may have happened. Why don't we start there?
Sure. Yeah, great question. I think probably every path to franchising is unique and special in its own way. And mine was certainly not a linear path, if you will, out of college. I started my career out of undergrad at Eli Lilly, a pharmaceutical company, and I was the guy with the suit on that had the briefcase full of drug samples, and would go in and see the doctor and try to convince him or her to prescribe my drug over competitors. And I started my career, kind of cut my teeth on that. Outstanding training. I wouldn't trade my time in big pharma for anything. Wonderful people and a great industry that reinvests in its own people. So I actually ended up working for 3 different pharmaceutical companies in the branded side. Finished my career in the branded side of pharma, where you're selling directly into the health systems, into physicians and whatnot. When I was a national sales director for a company that had a product that helped with insomnia, helped with another product that worked for asthma, another product that worked for COPD, and was a national sales director there, and spent about 9 years with that company in the Boston area. And then I took another role with a private equity firm, Stevens Capital. They're based out of Little Rock, Arkansas, and I took a role as the president of one of their manufacturing facilities. So I actually came to the other side of the business that manufactured products for the pharmaceutical industry. So instead of being in the big pharma industry, I was actually selling into big pharma and selling excess capacity that we had, that they needed it, or if they didn't have any manufacturing capability, we're just a virtual company, that we were a contract manufacturing organization. And was able to work with one of their sister companies down in Daytona Beach, Florida, a great founder, owner, operator down there, a gentleman named John Regan. And we ended up putting the 2 companies together. The 2 teams put the companies together, ran them as one, really built up the EBITDA, and were able to have a very successful exit in 2015. And I share that with you because that left me with a question of, okay, do I get back on the treadmill for another 5 to 7 years with another private equity firm, a new private equity firm that bought the company, or is this the right time to step off and try something new? Well, the simple story would be I stepped off and started a franchise. Well, that of course is not what happened. I ended up going to work for a friend actually who had worked for me, a friend that had worked for me at that company called Seprecor that I worked for in Boston, had gone to be a CEO of another contract manufacturing organization, one up in the Rhode Island area. And so I joined him as the chief operating officer of that facility and worked there for, I guess, the better part of 3 years. But Stan, the simple answer to your great question is I was at a conference in Barcelona, Spain, one of the most beautiful places in the world. And of course, I'm on an expense account with that company to represent the company. And I should have been the happiest guy in the world. I should have been the happiest guy in the world because I'm in Barcelona, Spain. Had a very successful career, had a great position and was in a great position in life. But I found myself looking out over this ginormous conference center and just had this wave of unhappiness and almost a disdain for the other attendees. And then I realized, well, that's not them. These people are great people. It's me. It's me. Something needs to change. And I think I had been doing that for so long. And I was on the road sometimes 40 weeks a year. And at that point, I still had children in the house. And I just came to the crossroads of my life where I decided I need to do something different. And as the universe aligns, as it always seems to do, if you just give it the opportunity, my son, who was, I think he was 12 or 13 at the time, wanted to learn how to box. And I called around I live in the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area in a suburb of Charlotte. I called around the area where we live and researched and found the best boxing instructor that I could find. And that guy's name was Steve Halloran. Steve owned 2 independent boxing for fitness studios that he had called Fast Fit Boxing. That was his, it's kind of a mom and pop gym, if you can call it that. And had a really cool concept, certainly what looked to be, I thought, a franchise. And I gave him, I think, what is the best compliment you can, and having owned several rock boxes and then beem light saunas, which we'll talk about later, the biggest compliment you can get is when somebody comes in and asks, is this a franchise and how many of these are there? If you're not franchised, because that shows that you really have a pretty tight product and at least some standards and a look and feel that is a cut above just an independent business. So I asked him, hey, how many, is this a franchise? How many are these? And because he had logoed heavy bags that you punch and logoed gloves that you would wear. And he'd really done it the right way. And the fitness product that he had was excellent. But again, I'm seeing this from afar because I'm basically just kind of shuttling my son there for private boxing lessons. And if you go back in my timeline here about 2 years, my wife and I sat at a dinner one night and said, hey, what do we really want to do in phase 2 of our life? I'm 52 years old now. I'm 52 years young, I guess. But this is back in my mid 40s, and we just said, hey, if there's a chapter 2, what would we want it to be? And we both realized that we're passionate about health and fitness. Without health and fitness, as COVID showed us, which this was before COVID, but I think we've all realized since COVID, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And if you're going to prioritize something in your life, health and fitness is something you should. Easier said than done, but I've always, even if I haven't eaten perfectly or always worked out, I've driven to, I've always been cognizant of how important that is. And that may be just the way, that some of my extended family did not take care of themselves and that they had to pay the price for that. But I have always been interested in combat sports, mixed martial arts, boxing, anything along those lines. I love it. I'm a crazy fan about it. And, the universe kind of aligned, Stan, to where taking my son Jackson to these boxing lessons, kept talking to Steve, and Steve said that he wanted to franchise. And I didn't really I knew what franchising was, but I didn't understand what was behind it. I think when any of us get into this business, we really don't have a clue when you first get in. You figure it out fast, but it's a steep learning curve. And so he wanted to know if I wanted to be as I'm making this, already knowing that 2 years ago, fortuitously had this deep conversation with my wife, and we even kind of drew up what we'd want and how we'd go about it and build a business. Now I'm in this conversation with Steve after he had trained my son one evening, and he said, "Would you be interested in being my first franchisee?" And I said, "Possibly." In fact, I'm at a crossroads because this is post trip to Barcelona when I knew I needed to make a change. I said, "Possibly." He said, "You're really hitting me at the right time." Thought about it for a couple of days, came back to him, and I said, "I do want to do this with you, but I don't want to be your first franchisee. I want to build a national brand with you, as an equal partner, a national brand, and we franchise this together. And we strip it down to the bones. We hire experts. We pour into branding and marketing before we get into this, so that when we launch as a brand that looks, feels, acts, tastes, smells like a national brand, and would allow us to grow rapidly." He had to think about that because that's, of course, his baby. And I remember asking him one particular question. I said, "Would you be opposed to change the name?" I'm not saying we have to change the name, but the thing is, I brought a lot of capital into the business, and we were going to hire some experts that I'd worked with in the past and a couple new people, up to and including changing the name. Are you down for that? And Steve just kind of chopped up and laughed. He goes, "I'm not married to the name." He said, "But I am married to the woman who thought of the name." So I had to convince his wife. We went to dinner, and when we kind of consummated the partnership over dinner and a bottle of wine, and both couples went out, and I met his wife for the first time and just told her that I was going to take care of her baby. And if we did change the name, which we ended up changing the name to RockBox Fitness, that it was only for the best. But it literally started, Stan, with me being, to use the word, disenfranchised in my career of 25 years. And then the right person being in front of me at the right time, and just fortunately having the capital to be able to self-fund building a franchise. And it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. So not only was it a way for me to start chapter 2 of my life, of my career, at least I should say, it's something that I am forever will be passionate about. I love helping people be healthy. I love helping people understand how to eat better, holding them accountable. And I'm incredibly passionate about mixed martial arts and kickboxing. And even though we don't spar, I mean, nobody gets punched at RockBox. We bust calories, not noses. It's still that same feeling, when you're working out on the bag. And, if we really want to go back in time here, not to go back to school days, but most kids grow up with, and their heroes are, at least in my generation, their heroes were Michael Jordan or Emmett Smith or Joe Montana or whatever it is. My heroes were Eddie Van Halen, the big bands of the 80s, and the guitarists of the 80s. I'm a guitarist from time I was in 8th grade or so. And of course, I played for fun now. I don't play professionally, but that was going to be my life at one point when I was in high school and early on in college. I'm glad I chose the path I did. But it's funny because RockBox really brings together this live concert feel when you're in a class, and that kind of community feel, that dopamine rush that you have when you're at a live concert of an artist that you love, with, of course, a very intense exercise program and something that gets results. But we have, lighting that flashes with the music and all that to kind of create this concert feeling. And I know it sounds corny, Stan, it sounds contrived, but it was literally a way to bring all the things that I love together. Of course, with a business partner that did a lot of heavy lifting too, to create a product that envelops everything I love, like all the fun things about my life that I've grown up loving and enjoy and really have a strong sense of pride for. It all kind of came together under this first brand. So that was a very long-winded answer to a pretty straightforward question, but that's kind of how I got here.
That's what editing knives are for. So the name RockBox now becomes evident to me in terms of why it made sense and continues to make sense. You're bringing together boxing and the music component. And what year was this that we're talking about here? When did this dinner happen?
That would have been the end of 2016, because we formed the LLC the very beginning of 2017. And I believe our first FDD was published either December of 2017 or right at the beginning of 2018. I can't quite recall. That's the age catching up to me. But yeah, it was in that 2016, end of 2016, first of 2017.
So now you have a partner in Steve and yourself, neither of whom have a stitch of franchise experience, but you made mention of some prior people in your life, some people that I know, and one of whom may even have brought us together. But tell us what that looked like and how did you navigate your way through those waters?
Yeah. As you know, being a franchisor is not for the faint of heart. It's an incredibly expensive venture to start up and very demanding, because you need to over deliver to your franchisees to earn their business, because they are your customer. And we kind of knew that, but we didn't really know that. And so what you had two guys that worked the most ridiculous hours you can imagine that did it all. And in that first year, we awarded 23 licenses. Some were multi-packs, but a lot of them were singles, but it was probably a mix of the two of those. But in our first, I think, 11 months of having an FTD, we awarded 23 licenses, and we were creating the training programs, all of that as we built at an incredibly fast speed. I mean, it was nonstop work. Now, I will say I'm not a lawyer, and neither was Steve, and certainly everything works out, right? So my next door neighbor in the place I used to live across the street was a business broker, but also had started a knife sharpening franchise, coincidentally. So I told him this thing over like a neighborhood party, and he's like, I know exactly who you need to talk to. So he recommended that I speak to a gentleman, and we paid a multi-5-figure fee to have him prepare all the documents. He had an outsourced lawyer that did all that, helped us put together the operating manual, even helped us with some of the broker contacts. And after the first year, gave us a PR connection. Really he got us into business. I will say, it was a great resource to get us into business and give us the guide rails. But that first year was Steve and I doing it all, and I mean everything, and there was no job above or below us. At the end of 2018, so we had sold 23. A mutual friend of mine and a guy named Jeff Duden, who people listening to this podcast probably know of from Advanaclean, now Homefront Brands, and he was on Undercover Boss, and he's been in the franchising business for 15 plus years. Great dude. The mutual friend said, you should talk to this guy who coaches my son in sports. Jeff, I think, was the football coach, Jeff Duden. And I remember talking to Jeff the first time. This is kind of funny, but I talked to Jeff the first time I was sitting in the parking lot of the studio, the RockBox studio that I owned, on a Saturday morning. And we talked for I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. And Jeff's a great dude, but he also gets kind of right to the point and, was asking some very pointed questions about, have we filed our trademarks, which of course we had, do we have an operating manual? Of course we had, and then he was somewhat surprised that we had sold 23 units in that first year. And, he'd been to the website, which we had professionally designed, and everything was pretty buttoned up for as much as it could be buttoned up for, 1 year into business and an emerging brand. So I think the first conversation was, hey, is he going to mentor us, or is he going to consult with us and, for a fee, whatever it would be. And then I got a call maybe a week later, and Jeff said, hey, do you want to meet for coffee on Sunday morning? Of course, I'd love to pick your brain, and anytime I could spend you with me would be valuable, and thank you in advance. So we meet at a local coffee shop here, and it was supposed to be like, an hour coffee, and that went like 2.5 hours. And you just know when you're in those conversations, when they tip, you hit the tipping point where it goes from, I am working to earn his confidence and get him to help us, and what can I do here to further this relationship, to where it switches to where all of a sudden Jeff's telling me about why he'd be valuable in the business and that he really is attracted to this business. And I could just tell, like, wow, this whole conversation has gone a different way than I thought. And I remember leaving and calling my business partner, the only one I had at the time there, and said, he said, how was coffee? I said, it was great. It was almost 3 hours. I don't think he wants to consult with us. I think he wants to join us. And, we had a laugh about that. And then I think a week later, the three of us met for lunch, and Jeff kind of went down his experience and qualifications. He was, I think, just about to exit Advanced. I think he had a, really, really lucrative exit just about to the finish line. And so he knew he was going to be doing other things after that. And long story short, ended up coming in for a minority position in the company. And because of Jeff's expertise, we've been able to build capabilities internally that were taking us years to learn how to do. We built systems that, again, were taking us years to do. We built FranDev capabilities that we may never have had the chops to do. And because of that, we were able to really lean into the business. Even during COVID, we actually hired home office employees during the lockdown because we were growing and knew that we'd be coming out of this. I never would have done that without Jeff Duden. There's no way I would have made that decision, because Jeff operates from a place of abundance and build ahead of revenue and get it ready, because if you do it right, it will come. The revenue will come.
Absolutely. Why don't we take a quick break right here, and then when we come back, let's take a deeper dive into all of that. We're talking today with Roger Martin, co-founder and CEO of not one, but two franchise brands, RockBox Fitness and Beem Light Sauna. So let's take that break and we'll be right back. Fair enough?
Sounds great.
Franchise Today will be right back. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Hey, franchise leaders, are you ready to transform the state of your franchise system and your life? Then join Michael E. Gerber for the most compelling hour on franchising you've ever spent. On Thursday, February 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern, Zor Forum invites you to join us online for a first-of-its-kind masterclass featuring the iconic Michael E. Gerber, author of more than 30 business titles, including The E-Myth Revisited. If you're ready to preview some of the insights that Gerber will reveal in his next book, The E-Myth Franchisor, you do not want to miss this class. Shockingly, according to Gerber, the road to franchise mastery is in exactly the opposite direction of the path taken by far too many franchisors. During this event, Gerber will introduce you to his trademarked franchise development methodology and the 4 critical categories of influence. Come spend 60 minutes with Michael E. Gerber and begin to learn why too many franchises don't work and what to do about it. Your complimentary registration is provided courtesy of FRM Solutions and 919 Marketing. Simply visit zorforum.com to reserve your space today. That's www.zorforum.com. Your name and email address is all it takes to register. And we're talking today with Roger Martin, co-founder and CEO of not one, but two franchise brands, RockBox Fitness and Beem Light Sauna, which is a really hot trend. We've seen so many new personal care trends in franchising that are speaking to new modalities every week, and we want to leave some time to learn more about Beam Light. But before we get there, let's just close the loop on the early days in RockBox. And another gentleman who's known to both me and you, in fact, he's the one who connected me to you, was Alan Young. And of course, Jeff Duden is somebody who's been a part of my life for I don't know how many years. In fact, Jeff's been on this podcast in the past and will quite likely be on again. So it's great to know that you're partnered with somebody like Jeff. And then on the franchisee side, learning that you've got somebody like Alan just speaks volumes to the integrity of this brand, because these are people that wouldn't be involved with anything less than that. So kudos to you on that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I am incredibly grateful every day I wake up, and I think we all know this as we put a few miles on our lives, so to speak, and get a little bit older. It matters, I believe, more in who you do business with than exactly what you're doing for business, because those are the people that's who you spend your days with, and that's who you're betting your future on, quite frankly. So I'm very fortunate to have those people in my life.
Well, in franchising, that's just a point of entry, right? The interdependency of relationships in this business is what it is all about, and then the secret sauce. So how many units are we today at RockBox?
Yeah, today we've got 50 locations open. 6 are currently in pre-launch, which means within the next 6 to 8 weeks, we should have 56 open. We have 150 plus licenses awarded. We used to know the exact number, but we've gotten to the point where thankful that I can't always keep track. So we've got 150 plus, and I think that's across 22 states.
And so under the umbrella then of ThriveMore Brands, we're functioning as RockBox Fitness and Beem Light Sauna, and you are the CEO of all three. Is that correct?
Correct. What we've done, we started off and we built RockBox. So Jeff and Steve and I built RockBox, and it's continues to build. We continue to have discovery days, and the network continues to thrive. Well, fast forward from the RockBox genesis is what I'm trying to say, and then you get to 2021. A woman named Cynthia Wagner people coming in out of your life. And Cynthia Wagner is a woman who had owned a 7-figure hair salon, a high-end hair salon up in the DC area, and then moved down to Charlotte, relocated down here with her husband and family. The story of Beem Light Sauna and how we got to ThriveMore being kind of the platform is her daughter, Cynthia's daughter, Maya, had Lyme's disease. And Lyme's disease is a really difficult disease state to treat. And it can ruin somebody's life. And it was ruining her daughter's life. And the only treatment that, besides a plethora of antibiotics and other drugs that they put into her, it was infrared sauna. That was the only thing that made her feel healthier, have more energy. And the reason why is because infrared sauna actually ends up boosting your immune system because it raises your core temperature, does a lot of physiological things that help your immune system. And Lyme's disease, of course, is an autoimmune disease. And so she would have to travel like 45 minutes up in Washington, D.C. to get to this one dermatology office that had an infrared sauna to do this treatment 4 or 5 times a week, but it put her Lyme's disease into remission. So when Cynthia moved to Charlotte, she said, I don't want to be back in the high-end hair salon business anymore. I don't want to do that again. So my calling is to open up in Greenfield an infrared sauna studio, kind of a pure play, not 50 different modalities, but just a pure play around infrared sauna and light therapy. Not only, for her daughter, but she just knew how many people this would help. And she ended up opening up this studio, opened it right in the middle, I think May of 2020. So imagine that's probably the worst time ever to open a business, but that's when she opened and persevered and grew this business and branded it. It also was named something else. It had a different name. And again, we got together, we talked. She wanted to franchise, like all of us, didn't quite understand how to do that, didn't necessarily have the capital to do that, had the will, had the leadership, had the vision to do it. But again, I think people that aren't in franchising see it and think, oh, cool, you have a concept and then you sell 1,000 of them and you just make a ton of money. And there's so much work between that and 1,000 that even if you get to 1,000, that's the grand slam walk-off home run. She was a person that had the vision, but just needed some of the, like I talked about earlier, some of the guide rails to get there. So we ended up putting a partnership together. She already had the proof of concept, and I stress tested the business through some different things I do when I evaluate a business, and then did some marketing campaigns and ran a bunch of traffic to see if I could boost the business there, which we easily did. And I realized, okay, this business is promotionally responsive, which is the kind of businesses I like to be in. It's in health and wellness. It fits perfectly it dovetails with RockBox. So as a franchisor, I never want to sell something to another franchisee that would compete with one of my current franchisees. That wouldn't be a good play. So this was almost like you could walk out of a RockBox and walk down the strip center and go into a Beam. It could even be owned by the same person, and it would be complementary, not competitive, but actually would add value if they were both in the same center. So got to get a deal done. We get a deal done. Jeff's part of that deal, Jeff Duden. So in Beam Light Sauna, the three partners are myself, Cynthia Wagner, and Jeff Duden. And I built a second location, kind of our flagship location in the younger population part of Charlotte, and launched that in March 27th of 2022. That studio has just been rip roaring from the start and continues to grow month after month after month. Strong growth. So we're really proud of the model, and Cynthia's worked to operationalize it and scale it very, very quickly, been able to accelerate that business, and just had our first franchise open in Virginia. And that franchise opened with over 300 members on a membership basis on the subscription model on day one because of the pre-sales process that we do. So we're really, really bullish on Beam Light Sauna and the feedback we've gotten from the market. We awarded 52 licenses in the first 7 months, I guess, that we had franchised, because we franchised in the middle of 2022. And we're having to do 2 discovery days per month because the demand is there, which is a great problem to solve. So we thought, okay, we've got 2 health and wellness brands, a fitness, a group fitness concept, and then this really hot and exciting infrared sauna business. Well, really, we should just look out across the field and see what our peers are doing. And, there are a lot of amazing platforms out there. I think, Unleashed Brands is a great example of that. They're very prescriptively putting together brands that complement each other and actually follow the child as the child grows up through and ages out of one brand, they age into another. And we're really following a similar path around ThriveMore, to where somebody that finally gets serious about their health and fitness, they're probably going to want to work out, but they probably don't know what to do when they go to the gym besides get on the treadmill. So RockBox is going to be a very fun, exciting, feel like a rock concert, but you're going to burn a ton of calories, and you're supported by a whole community. But most importantly, that the class is led by a certified instructor. So you don't have to think. You put your cell phone in the cubby up front, and you just enjoy the workout and put in the work. And we teach you how to box and kickbox on the bags, and then there's strength training too. Well, that person is also probably going to need to have some recovery, because they're going to be sore after that workout. And the person, if they're looking after their weight, they're probably going to look after their skin, and skincare is infrared sauna does amazing things for skincare. We also have red light therapy as well, full body red light therapy, which also is amazing for skin. So Stan, what we saw is we had 2 brands that fit so perfectly together, and some of that luck, absolutely. Some of that's, we've been diligent about the opportunities that have come towards us. We've turned down a lot of them because we are still looking to acquire more brands. So if you're listening out there and you've got a great brand that's in health and wellness, we'd love to talk to you. But ThriveMore was the concept that we created to really house these brands. So we're still self-funded. Private equity is not part of our vocabulary yet. At some point, will we invite private equity to come in and take a stake to further fund the business and grow the business, and probably more importantly, acquire other brands? Almost for sure. But right now in front of us is RockBox Fitness and Beam Light Sauna. We're self-funded, and we've gone all in on these 2, but we continue to have conversations almost on a weekly basis with other concepts and other founders that have a great opportunity in the health and wellness space. If somebody came to us with like a lawn care company that was a great opportunity, we would kick that down the road to somebody else that could capitalize on that, because I don't know anything about lawn care. But health and wellness is where we've put our stake in the ground, and the numbers show that the market is growing by $1 trillion a year. It's crazy how much this market is exploding, across all modalities, not just sauna or fitness, but just all self-care, I guess, is the best all-encapsulating term.
You're building a model for a platform that will be very attractive at some point to private equity. And I think you're right about the trend. The trend is, how many more places can I touch the same customer and transact business with somebody who already knows me and trusts me in some other aspect of their day-to-day life? I mean, how much better can it get than that? To bring the people behind you along for the ride, and to have a back end that can scale across the brands. It's just a model made for success. It sounds like nothing but success should come your way with what I'm hearing.
Very much appreciate that. Stan, when we do these discovery days, we're very intentional about introducing the prospects, the candidates, to our team. And the team comes in and explains not just, what their name is and what department they're in, but actually what they do, what on a daily basis, what they do to serve the franchisees in our network. And there are 22 people that work out of our headquarters. And so when you have these prospects come in and they're sitting there, and of course they know our Fran Dev person, or they know the franchise consultant maybe that we've been working with for that particular deal. And they may know me from researching on LinkedIn or whatever, but we parade 20 or 22 people in front of them. I absolutely am beyond proud of the team and on what we've accomplished here. We have a younger tenured team. And by that, I mean a younger team, period. They're just younger in age. But holy moly, what they get done, professionalism that they bring to their role, and the way they support the franchisee, an unending support for the franchisees. I sound like a father, but it's because I'm old enough to be some of their fathers. I bust at the seams when I think about how much they've grown, the opportunity we've given them, which I'm very proud of that, but how that manifests in supporting of the franchise network. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. We don't support the franchisees. They don't do well. Nobody's winning. And we've got a great team here. So it's very impressive. And it makes it easy for us to add that third brand and add that fourth brand because we already have an in-house digital marketing agency. Built that. We have that. It's fully staffed. We have a build-out team. We have a real estate team. We have a social media person. We have a business office and finance team. We have the sales training department that usually you just don't have when you have one brand or you just have one smaller brand. But because, again, Jeff Duden, let's spend ahead of revenue because we have the capital to do that, because let's get it right from day one. Because if not, you just go back and have to fix it. And if you have to go back and fix it, then it's more expensive. And also the people that went through before you fixed it really didn't get a fair shake. So I'm going to give Jeff full credit for this as well. Really helped drive home for me the importance of values. And I'm sure that's something you know and have known for a long time. Working for big companies, though, I'll tell you, working for big pharma, a lot of times the mission statement, especially the values, they were words on a wall. That was it. They were words on a wall or in a book that you maybe saw one time and they were never talked about again. Our values are how we run our business. And we spend a lot of time figuring out what our values are. And it's how we run our business. And it makes the decisions easy. Consequences, we always say the consequences are hard, right? Like we got to make COVID. We got to close every studio nationwide. Do it before the government even tells us to do it. We got to do it. It's the right thing to do. That's an easy decision because trust is one of our values. The consequence was terrible. Revenue slowed down and our franchisees were having to scramble, and we helped them through that, built an online model within 72 hours and helped them with their landlords, all that stuff. And we did all the right things you should do as a franchisor. But the decision was easy. It's just the consequences were hard. And so we really have built this team and we built these brands based on those values. And it makes for less deliberating because you just bump up your decisions against your values. And if it doesn't jive with your values, the answer is pretty clear.
Yep. Well, I hear a whole lot of Michael E. Gerber's franchise prototype in what I'm hearing here.
Yep.
And I think you should be proud of what you've accomplished and moreover, what's ahead. What about some contact info for those who are going to want to get back in touch?
I'm available on LinkedIn. I think that's the best way to get a hold of me. Roger Martin, and look for ThriveMore Brands, Beem, Light Sauna, or RockBox Fitness. I think any one of those will be a hit and will bring up my profile. I try to get back. If it's a genuine inquiry, I try to get back within 24 hours. If it's somebody that is pitching their services, I may take a little longer, but I usually get back to them as well. But that's probably the best way for sure.
Well, I'm going to thank you, Roger, for joining us. Roger Martin has been with us today, co-founder and CEO of RockBox Fitness and Beem Light Sauna, and altogether ThriveMore Brands. Thanks again, Roger, for being here.
Thanks for having me, Stan.
Well, there it is, another fantastic conversation heading into the archives, with many, many more ahead, including Wingstop's Senior VP of U.S. Development, Craig Sherwood, Franchise Films CEO, Trevor Rapley, Huntington Learning Centers, and Huntington Sharma, Mighty Auto Parts President Josh D'Agostino, and Alan Young, serial entrepreneur, multi-brand founder, and author of Disruptable, all in the weeks ahead. So until next week, I'm Stan Friedman wishing you the best, the very best of all things franchising, and Franchise Today is out.
Franchise Today is a production of FRM Solutions, providing best-in-class CRM tools to empower relationships with prospective and existing franchisees. No excuses, just solutions. Find them online at frmsolutions.com. Join Stan every Wednesday at noon Eastern for another live episode of Franchise Today. Or, as always, download episodes on demand at blogtalkradio.com or iTunes.
When you're part of a military family, you understand sacrifice and support. At American Public University, we honor your dedication by extending our military tuition savings to your extended family. Parents, spouses, legal partners, siblings, and dependents all qualify for APU's preferred military rate of just $250 per credit hour for undergraduate and master's level programs. American Public University. Value for the whole family. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.